15 men stopped a moving train in the dead of night and walked away with the equivalent of $70 million in today's money. And the police still don't know how they pulled it off. That claim sounds like fiction. But on August 8, 1963, a Royal Mail train traveling from Glasgow to London was flagged down in rural Buckinghamshire by what appeared to be a legitimate railway signal. What happened next became the largest theft in British history at that time. The gang made off with £2.6 million in used banknotes, a sum so staggering that Parliament convened emergency sessions to discuss it. Now everyone remembers the Great Train Robbery as a masterpiece of criminal planning. Slick, orchestrated, the work of criminal genius, and they're not entirely wrong, but the evidence suggests something far messier was happening behind the scenes. There were informants. There were rival gangs circling. There were loose ends that should have unraveled the whole operation in days. Yet it didn't. Why? Exhibit 1, the planning itself. The robbers had insider information. Someone on the railway payroll told them exactly which train, which night, which route carried the payroll. That's not luck. That's espionage. A man named Roger Corddry, one of the gang members, later admitted they'd been tipped off months in advance. The question nobody asked then, and few ask now, was how deep did that corruption run? How many railway employees knew? Exhibit 2, the signal itself. The robbers used a railway signal to stop the train. But here's what the official story glosses over: that signal was positioned perfectly. Too perfectly. It required someone with intimate knowledge of railway signaling protocols. Someone who understood sight lines, stopping distances, and the exact procedures drivers would follow. That person was never identified. Not in 1963, not since. Exhibit 3, the hideout. After the robbery, the gang fled to a farmhouse called Leatherslade Farm. Police found it within days. But here's the forensic problem: they found it too easily. The farm was roughly 40 miles from the robbery site. In 1963, with limited communication networks and no computerized tracking, finding a specific farmhouse in the English countryside should have been nearly impossible, unless someone told them exactly where to look. Some historians argue the police simply got lucky. They canvassed the area methodically. They followed leads. It was old-fashioned detective work. Fair point. But luck doesn't explain the next piece of evidence. The farmhouse had been occupied for only a few days. The gang had barely settled in. Yet police arrived with a warrant and found incriminating evidence: mailbags, tools, traces of the robbery itself. How did they know what to search for so quickly? Exhibit 4, the informant. Within weeks, arrests started. Bruce Reynolds, Charlie Wilson, Ronnie Biggs, Roy James. The gang was dismantled, but the speed of those arrests and the precision suggests someone inside the operation was talking. Not under torture, not after interrogation. Someone fed information to the police before the gang could disperse. The Metropolitan Police never confirmed who. That silence itself is evidence. Now, skeptics say the robbers were simply incompetent at covering their tracks. They left fingerprints. They left DNA evidence, though that wasn't tested until decades later. They were sloppy because they were criminals, not professionals. That's a reasonable argument. But it doesn't account for one detail: several members of the gang were experienced thieves. Ronnie Biggs had pulled off major heists before. These weren't amateurs. Exhibit 5, the money itself. Here's where the story gets really interesting. Of the £2.6 million stolen, only a fraction was ever recovered. Most of it vanished. Some went to lawyers defending the accused. Some was lost or burned, but a significant amount simply disappeared. Into what accounts, through which banks, those records were sealed. They remain sealed. Even now, over 60 years later, the official explanation is that the money was simply hidden. The robbers stashed it in various locations, and some was never claimed because those men were imprisoned or died before they could retrieve it. Plausible. But it raises a darker question. If you're part of a criminal enterprise with millions at stake, and your partners go to prison, do you really just leave the money buried, or does someone else know where it is? Exhibit 6, the sentences. The gang members received sentences ranging from 20 to 30 years, extraordinarily harsh by 1963 standards. The judge, Justice Edmund Davies, handed down those sentences with visible anger. But here's what's curious: some gang members served their full terms. Others received early releases or parole. The patterns weren't consistent. Why would some be treated more leniently than others? Unless there were negotiations happening behind closed doors. Ronnie Biggs escaped from prison in 1965, less than 2 years into his 30-year sentence. The escape itself was orchestrated. A ladder was placed against the prison wall. A truck was waiting. But who arranged it? Biggs claimed he had outside help, but he never named names. He fled to Brazil and lived there for decades. giving interviews, writing memoirs, but always stopping short of revealing his accomplices in the escape. That silence suggests protection. Someone powerful wanted him quiet. The counterargument is straightforward. Biggs was a career criminal. Criminals help each other escape. It's how the underworld works. No conspiracy necessary. Fair enough. But the consistency with which the police seemed to know exactly where the gang was, exactly what they were doing, and exactly when to move in, that suggests a level of coordination that goes beyond normal detective work. Here's the final piece. In the 1970s, decades after the robbery, a retired Scotland Yard detective gave an interview to a journalist. He hinted, never stated outright, but hinted that the police had known about the robbery in advance, that they'd allowed it to happen to catch the gang red-handed. He claimed it was a calculated risk to bring down a larger criminal network. He was never questioned further. He died shortly after. His full statement was never published. That claim sounds like conspiracy theory, and it might be, but it's supported by circumstantial evidence. The insider knowledge, the perfectly positioned signal, the too-quick discovery of the farmhouse, the rapid arrests, the sealed financial records, the unexplained parole patterns. None of these proves anything on its own, but together they suggest a narrative the official history has never fully addressed. The Great Train Robbery wasn't just a heist. It was a carefully orchestrated operation with layers we still don't understand. The men who went to prison took their secrets with them. The police never fully disclosed their methods. And somewhere, a significant portion of pound 2.6 million in 1963 currency remains unaccounted for, not lost, not forgotten, hidden, by someone who still hasn't been named. The evidence is clear. The Great Train Robbery was far more complex than a simple theft. It involved corruption, advanced planning, inside information, and official coordination that the authorities have never fully explained. Whether that coordination was intentional or accidental, whether it was orchestrated to catch criminals or to protect them, that remains the unsolved question at the heart of Britain's most famous crime. Subscribe to uncover the hidden mechanics behind history's most elaborate schemes, where the official story always has loose threads.